I am Jane Sibbett, and we are on Streaming for the Soul. And we are so happy to be here again with Shavasti. We are on our third conversation. We had a little mini teaser, and now we're on the third conversation with Shavasti. And I am so happy to welcome you back. You are in Bangkok still?
Yes, that's right. I'm still here. Mhm.
Excellent, excellent. I'm so glad. And it's been fascinating to get to know you. But for those, there are a few people that I would imagine that are tuning in just to this and haven't watched the earlier conversations that we've had. So just to bring them up to speed, I met Shavasti about 10 days ago, and he was just told to me as someone that I should definitely meet, that he was doing extraordinary work, and he, beyond being a seer and a mystic, he has been helping people around the world for many years have deeper conversations with themselves about truth, empowering love into their lives, and so many other things as well. So, Shavasti, what would you like to tell people first and foremost about who you are and what it is that you do? Would you mind sharing that with
Mm.
us?
Um, yeah. Oh, who I am, that's still an unfolding story.
Who are
Still
you,
an
sir?
unfolding story,
Yeah.
yes, indeed.
Yes.
Um, well, I haven't always been doing this. Up until 1991, 1992, I was in the computer industry. And
Really?
so, yes, I was actually. And then I completely changed direction in my life and that had me reading the tarot cards for people in my living room. I changed my life from having a corporate job and a nice big house and a nice big car to living in a much smaller house and no car, um, making my living doing psychic readings. Um, so it started to happen that being in the corporate world began to become very uncomfortable for me. It just wasn't me and who I was and what I wanted to do. Because I'd been chasing an image of success, experiencing its opposite, being poor for several years, um, was very unpleasant. But I still had to follow my path, which then involved studying various therapies. I also, because of my own trauma as a childhood, I needed to go into therapy myself. So the whole thing began to change and evolve, and then I got involved in family constellation work, and so I've written several books. Um, my very first book back in I can't remember whether it was 2000 or 2001. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Round about the change of
Right.
the millennium. My very
Yes.
first book was channeled because that was the work that I was doing then, working as a psychic in a channel. So from corporate world to that, and then I went into the world of therapies and personal development, and then my focus completely changed onto family constellation work and then working with big groups and one-on-one. And I really did that for 16 years, flat out. I did 450 workshops, weekend workshops. So worked really with a lot of people, and so I became successful and good at that. And so this is now another phase of the transformation, having gone through many deep personal experiences myself, and adventured into the world of shamanism and also energy healing as well. I went to various schools. And so my work now is inclusive of family constellations, but not exclusive to. And it is inclusive of shamanism and shamanic journeys, but not exclusive to. So really, and one of the challenges I have around writing up a workshop description, if I were to have things completely my way, it would just say a weekend with Shavasti. That's it. Because
Mm.
I don't know what we're going to do.
Right.
Because I don't yet
Right.
know who is there, who is coming for this gathering, and what is the need? What are the individual needs and what is the need of the group? And that's how I lead my groups. So, really, every description I write about my workshops feel quite untrue. So, I list the kinds of things that can happen,
Ah.
um, but I never really know. Some of my workshops would look very much like a family constellation workshop, can do, and others, one could walk away assuming that I've never been involved in family constellations at all,
Hmm.
because the work is more satsang, with me speaking and going into a much deeper conversation with people. So that's not lecturing, that's really having a conversation with individuals, leading them down a particular path of self exploration. And it can also involve journeying. So if I think about the last few workshops I've done, and one of them I did some drumming on, others I did some constellations, others I did mostly talking. It depends who's coming to visit me,
I
who's
hear there
coming
might
to
be
sit with me.
dancing, and there might.
Yes, there can be dancing, there can be movement. And for me, I
Yeah.
like to create a very safe environment in which the very broad spectrum of feelings are welcome. So I tend to be very playful as well. We have fun, there's jokes, there's humor, there's belly laughing, there's also tears, there's also profound sadness, profound grief, profound healing, profound joy. It's all there. It's all there. And it's about honoring what is present in each moment. If I had a prescription and said, okay, this is my workshop, this is what we do, and then we do that, and then the next thing is this, and the next phase is that, then it's not working with what is, and I like to work with what is. So we might start in the middle, if there is a prescribed middle, if you understand what I mean.
So people sign up for this workshop of things that might happen, and then do you intuit? Do you wait until they get there and see what it is that they need to be working on at that particular point? How does that work then?
Ah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So it's very fine. What I say to people is, and this is really based on my own personal experience. I mean, I remember many times I'd go off to one of my teachers or go off to a workshop, and I had a very specific idea in my mind of this is my issue and this is what I'm going to work on. Invariably, what we arrive in is not what emerges.
Yes.
So people walk in with a mother issue that they're going to resolve their mother issue, and the next thing they know, they're feeling something very deep and unresolved with regards to the relationship with their father or their ex-husband or their first love when they were 16 years old. Um, Invariably, what people come with is not what emerges. The universe and the soul has far more intelligence than me and than you and all of us combined. When we surrender to what is present, then the next thing for us is what presents itself. Most people are surprised with what comes up for them. And so when an atmosphere of safety and intimacy is created, and it is possible to create an atmosphere of safety and intimacy with
Yes.
40 or 50 people in the room, I'm very careful around boundaries. I talk about that in my introduction. Um, there's a promise for confidentiality and also to respect everybody's boundaries. I'm quite a strict mama bear when it comes to that. It's like those
I
people
am
who've
too.
just been in process with me, leave them alone. And no, they don't want to know what your insight or your opinion is. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Leave
yes,
them
yes, yes.
alone. Leave them
Right.
alone. So I like to create that very safe atmosphere. Um, and so it's a journey of healing. And I know that one of the questions you wanted to ask me was about, well, what is healing? And lots of people want to know that because there are so many different forms.
And are we coming to
That's
be healed? Is this what we're also signing up to do if we come to a workshop? Is it about our healing, or is it about us being able to heal, or something else entirely?
well, first of all, if we look at the root of the word to heal, it means to become whole.
Huh?
So the root of the word heal is to become whole. And interestingly, I speak more than one language, and one of my languages that I've worked in and given workshops in is Dutch. And the word whole in Dutch is heel, and the word to heal is heel as well. It's the
Nice.
same word. Okay, so the root of the word to heal is to become whole. And so if we know that the root of the word to heal is to become whole, if you're not whole, if I'm not whole, then where are the missing parts? Where did we leave them? And so healing is about, this invitation is about discovering the lost parts of ourselves. What became lost? When did it become lost? And where is it now? And the real question is it really lost? Is it really, really lost? Because the answer is as close as your own heart. And it doesn't get as close as that. I remember with one of my spiritually transformative experiences is that I laughed almost constantly for 2 days, realizing, makes me laugh now too, realizing that the thing that I was searching for was not lost. It was I, the searcher, who was lost.
It was what? Pardon me? It was
most,
what? Say
most,
that again.
most people say, pardon me and excuse me to that, was realizing that
Yeah.
that which I was searching for was not lost. It was I, the searcher, who was lost. Because the thing that
Ah.
was not lost, it was here already. So what I discovered that when we get there, there is no there, because it was here all the time. So we're on this journey of trying to get there. We're on this journey to try and find that which is lost. And it was never lost in the first place. It was simply concealed. And so this journey into wholeness, part of that is the realization that we're whole and complete anyway. However, we have to be careful with teachings like that. It's like the teaching of oneness. And so now this teaching that we're complete and whole anyway. When the ego or the mind grabs hold of that, it then creates a teaching, it creates a dogma out of that. And everybody goes around saying, oh yes, but we're all one anyway. Well, when that is only a mental concept, it is completely and utterly meaningless. And then we begin to separate and say, well, I'm in oneness with the universe, but I see and perceive that you're not in oneness with the universe.
Immediately go to separateness. Yeah. Right.
Exactly, exactly. And
Mhm.
that's what happens. And so there is danger. Danger. Yeah, there is danger that whenever these experiences are communicated as teachings, that and I've done it myself. So there's nothing that I teach that I've not done myself. You know, I've fallen to my knees, I've walked into brick walls, I've done the I know better than thou, I've done the spiritual arrogance, etc., 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 etc. I have done it all. I've done everything,
What was your
and I'm
favorite
sure
part?
that all of the favorite parts. So
Yes, yes.
all of the distortions and the illusions, I've done them all, and some of them I still do, and I catch myself at it, going, "Where did that come from?" You know.
Right, right, right.
Um, so here's one of the challenges with these teachings: is that the ego, our mind, loves to grab hold of them and make them into some kind of shiny object. So now, oneness is the goal. Mhm. And or peace is the goal, or love is the goal. So then we go around telling everybody, well, no, that's love, and that's not love, and you must do that because that's love, and you mustn't do that because that's not love. And so the ego loves to do that. Mhm. And what I've discovered for myself is that whenever we take a teaching and make an identity out of it, so let's say there's oneness there as a teaching. As soon as we grab that and make an object, an identity out of that, I'm in oneness, all it indicates is that it has not been surrendered to. That we've grabbed hold of it instead of surrendering to the full experience of that. Because when we're in that experience, we don't speak from that place of determining who is love, who is not love, what is oneness, what is not oneness, what is self-realized, what is not self-realized, what is dual or non-dual, all of these terms that are out there. And so we like to grab hold of ideas of what it is to be healed. I remember back in the 90s when there were books like You Can Heal Your Life, and I love Louise Hay because she is what do you call? She was a pioneer. She
Yes.
came out there with this stuff, an absolute pioneer. But don't you remember all those people that you met? You'd get a cold and bang your knee and they'd open up their book and they'll say, "That's because you're not." Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We still do it.
Yeah.
Did ask. I still like, oh, the neck. It's so yeah, I'm taking on too
You
much.
know?
Yeah. Not
And
moving
so
forward. Right.
that was absolutely groundbreaking information, but look what
Yeah.
many people did with it and are still doing with it. And
Yes.
are
Still a big
still
seller.
doing with the information. So it becomes yet another dogma. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a cold and somebody walks up to you, "That's because you're not loving yourself enough, sweetheart." So this is what we have a tendency to do. So this is the ego that loves to do that. And it simply is an indication that we've not surrendered. All of those things I've described, I've done it myself. I have
Yes.
done those things myself. Referring to a book and telling people what they should be doing or what they're thinking or what's going on with them, not based on looking at them through the eyes of my heart. When we look at people through the eyes of our heart, we also tend to know what is our business and what is their business. I generally stick to the rule that unless somebody says to me, "Please help me," then I mind my own business. It's just an opinion. It's just an opinion I'm offering. So it's not really that important. So we have to ask ourselves, well, if healing means to become whole, where are the different parts of us? Where were they left? Perhaps you had a birth trauma. Perhaps you were premature and you lived your first days or weeks in an incubator. How much of you is left in the incubator? How much of you was left behind in the birth trauma? And one of the difficulties with that is that because of the nature of our mind, we like to explain feelings to ourselves. I feel this because my dad said that. I feel this because my sister did this. I feel this because my mum was like that. But what if the feelings you have come from an age around which you have no specific or clear memory?
Right.
What if it was the day you were born? What if it was 6 weeks after you were born? What if you were 18 months old or 2 years old? What if you were an 18-month-old listening to your parents screaming and shouting at each other? Mm-hmm.
So your practice is saying that we have access to those memories?
Absolute.
Yes.
Well, for me, the memories are not so important. It's about feelings, and it's about the feelings that frighten us, feelings of separation, feelings of fear, and lots of shadow feelings as well. Hatred, for example. Hatred, bitterness, resentment, jealousy. And so what I say to people is that everything is energy. So fear is energy, grief is energy, hatred is energy, um, jealousy is energy, resentment is energy, feeling ugly, that's an energy. It's all energy.
Right.
And these are all very unpleasant feelings, and we've decided that we don't want to feel them. The energy body is very fluid. So our emotional body is very, very fluid. And so given that it's very fluid, if we suppress anger, for example, or if we suppress grief, if we suppress vulnerability, given that the emotional body is fluid, and it's an energy, it's a fluidic energy, if we dam all the fear, all these other unpleasant feelings, what's going to happen to the rest of the emotional body?
Back up.
We don't get, yeah, we don't get to choose which ones we suppress. So when one thing is suppressed, the others become suppressed as well. So we suppress our love, our joy, our exuberance, our magnificence, all of that. Also, too, it requires a lot of life force energy to keep our deepest fears in place. So here's a question for you. What if you had access? What would your life look like if you suddenly had access to all of the energy that you're currently using to suppress your deepest fears? What if you could use that life force energy that you have invested in keeping your shame deeply hidden from all and every single human being? Can you feel into how much energy has to be invested
Right.
in keeping shame at bay? Now, shame is
True.
not a very popular topic, is it?
No, there's so many who have it though. There's so much shame, and especially with our media and the image, body images. So much shame. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, what I say to people is that our shameful secret is actually shame itself.
Yes.
It's not really the thing that we think we're ashamed of. The shameful secret is actually shame itself. We don't want anyone to know that we have shame because we feel very vulnerable with it. So just ask yourself, how much energy does it take to keep your shame deeply hidden?
It's exhausting. It's
Okay,
exhausting.
so um,
Yeah.
we don't have to give it a percentage, but we can say
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's
Yes.
a significant amount of life force energy goes into keeping our shame hidden. So the question is, considering that life force energy is used to create, we are creative beings, whether it's acting as you do. Motherhood is also creative. Oh boy, you've got to be creative to be a mother, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Keeping the
Um,
yes.
um, if that life force energy was available to you, what would your life look like?
I'd
That's
be
the
the
deeper question.
Tesla of people. I would be free. Oh, it would be fantastic.
Uh-huh.
So many.
And so this is the invitation, is to realize that healing is to become whole. So what part of you are you keeping hidden? And it's a choice. We choose. Of course, we live in a society that takes a very dim view of vulnerability. Shame is a very touchy topic for people. No one wants to reveal to anybody else that they actually have shame, but in order to work with it, one has to be prepared to be vulnerable. But vulnerability is also not a very um, welcome attribute.
We live in a society, at least in America, where we've got the tabloid culture. We've got it every checkout stand, every supermarket. There are these horrible
Mm.
rags exposing our deepest vulnerabilities, whether it's that we've got a little, extra padding on our bodies, or
Mm.
that someone has done us wrong, or all of that. So are you saying that we should just come out and be more comfortable with these vulnerabilities, or are you just saying we need to name them? What is that? What is it?
Well, I think from the perspective of being an actress, then you probably had a run-in with the gossip press. What
Yes.
I'm really talking about our relationships with our
So,
friends and our family, and with
right.
ourselves. That
Yeah.
first, that's at a different
Full of
level.
it.
So the advice that I might give you about that would be quite. I'm really talking about the day-to-day shame that we're all dealing with.
Right, right.
Um, on some level, what does it really matter what they're saying about you in the press?
Right. Exactly. But I guess my point is that's macro and for in terms of the micro of
Mm.
if each individual, are you saying that if we're ashamed of our bodies, do we express that shame or do we just own it and then move through it? What do you?
Well, it depends on who you choose to express it to,
Mhm.
but shame does not survive being exposed. It
Okay.
lifts.
Yeah.
Shame lives in the shadows.
Yes. Yes.
Shame lives in the shadows. So you could perhaps imagine going to your partner, your lover, husband, friend, girlfriend, whoever, and expressing shame that you have about a particular aspect of your body. Of course, that can feel very vulnerable, and one would hope that you have a compassionate and understanding partner. And if that is met with love and with compassion, the shame also dissolves. Particularly if they say something to you, oh, I'd never particularly noticed that before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or, well, honey, it's been 2 years and I'm still here, and it's not something that I've ever noticed that would turn me away from your heart or who you are. Shame does not survive being spoken of. It doesn't survive being revealed. Of course, we've all had the unfortunate experience of revealing something that the other person is then uncomfortable with our vulnerability and dismisses it,
Or
or
ridicules
abuses
us.
it, or
Right. Yeah.
ridicules it. Well, that's
Yes.
when you need to have a new friend who's not going to do that. However, what I say to you is we have to start somewhere. And so we can all say, well, I'm not going to reveal any of this because it's too risky. Then why are we in a relationship with individuals with whom it is too risky? So then we
Yes.
come back to the control and the limiting truth. And so we don't live in truth because we believe that we are controlling our relationships. So the deeper question needs to be asked: if you cannot reveal some of the shame you hold about your body, for example, with your partner, because there is a fear of being ridiculed or because you have experienced being ridiculed in the past, the deeper question is, why are you with that person? What makes you think that that's healthy to do
Mm.
that? And that's the bridge that most people don't want to cross. It's a negotiation. Well, if I limit the amount of truth, then I can hold on to this relationship and then wonder why we're so unhappy.
Mm.
Wonder why we're so unhappy. I did it for a number of years in one relationship. I was continually shamed by the other individual, but I didn't believe at the time that I was worth more than that. And so I held on to it. Hmm.
So to move through, if you oh so let's say we were to come to this workshop and you realize, wow, I am in this situation where I am holding back information, I'm holding back my truth or my shame with my partner, and they realize that and they come home and they share, is it then we just see what happens at that point? Is that what?
Well, first of all, there are patterns that we've established with partners and friends, etc. I do not recommend to people to go home and suddenly be an absolute open book, because the other person
Right.
needs to have time to adjust to the new you.
Yeah. Right, right, right.
And so they're interacting with various aspects of you, so that needs to be opened slowly. But the process that I go through is not just about truth telling. Um, it's also about how we hold our energy and how we hold our energy in defense. And so, and that can be seen in the body, that can be seen in the energy field. And so part of what I do in the workshop is also energy work with individuals. There are these things called dense spherical objects, which I see within the Shushumna, or the vertical, um, some schools call it the vertical power column, where um, the original trauma, let's say the shame or the fear of violence or the self-hatred, etc., where that begins to form when we're very, very young, and from birth onwards, sometimes in utero, that can begin to form. And then every
Hmm.
experience that reminds us of that or that is similar to that, we add more energy to it, and we keep those feelings as dense, as dense, as dense, as dense as possible, because we never want to feel that level of self-hatred or separation or rejection again. And so
Right.
that becomes tightly held. And so as people go through this process, as I take people through the process of facing where they have defended their heart, there can be an energetic component where I help them to release one of these dense spherical objects that can be very intense. But there's a very big difference between intensity of experience and cathartic. So it's not specifically a cathartic experience, although it can look and sound like that at times. Um,
Yes.
so, in a nutshell, coming to truth is about opening all of those places where we hold back from life, where we hold back from love. For most people, and certainly not for anybody that I've ever met, and not for me, that cannot be achieved in its totality in one weekend. It's an ongoing process, it's a journey. Hmm.
But we can start that journey with you if we
Hmm.
have these, if we're able to come and visit you on these workshops. Yes.
Yeah, either start the journey with me or continue the journey with me, because I'm sure most people
Right.
who come to me started years ago or some time ago, yes.
Well, I think for some people this is all very brand new. Now, what do you suggest for somebody who would like to do this kind of work or more exploration? Do your books take you through this also, Shavasti? Do your books take us through this process?
The book that I've just written, Embracing the Power of Truth, is in part autobiographical, but
Uh-huh.
the small part is autobiographical. And then it moves on to addressing these issues of um, especially trying to fix. Many people are trying to fix something, they're trying to fix what's wrong with them. And so the invitation is to step back and realize that all the things that are wrong with us are simply a defense mechanism. They're not actually real. The shame isn't
Ah.
actually real. The fear isn't actually real. They feel real. We experience them as real. So I'm not dismissing them. I mean, they are very real in terms of our
Yes.
experience, but they're
Yep.
not the reality of who we are. But the reality of who we are is not a concept. You know, we can all go around and saying, I'm a light being, I'm pure consciousness. But if that's just a concept and it's not directly experienced in absolute grounded experience, because we can go around living in our upper chakras if we want, because they're all full of love and light, but most of our wounding is in the first four chakras, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Um, so it's great if you've got this huge, great third eye and a very open crown chakra, then of course you're at one with the universe. But
Right.
your human self is not. And so this is about bringing love to the human level, into the level of human relationships. This is where we learn. You know, love is very simple. It is very simple and it's very easy. And when we come from a place of an undefended heart, it is the most natural thing to do. It is the most natural thing to be. In fact, that is who we are. However, until we address our deeper wounds and the defenses that we've created around them, and the personality that we've created, the false aspects of our personality that we've created around the defenses, until we acknowledge that, then we'll never know the truth of who we are. And instead, we might be tempted to create what I certainly had at one stage, a love mask.
Love mask?
I'm all a love mask, yes. A love mask. You know, there's a peace and serenity mask, there's a love mask. They're all love and light. And when we live from that place, human relationships become difficult because it's not authentic. The heart thrives in authenticity. The heart thrives on truth. Truth is the oxygen for the heart, and truth is about authenticity. And learning authenticity, for it has to be learned, because most of us are deeply confused between opinion and truth. Most of what I hear is being expressed as, well, I need to express my truth here. It's just a whole other bunch of opinions. I've done it myself many times. And so the truth of the heart is simple. So many times we're grasping for some cosmic idea of what love is. But love can be making your friend a cup of tea when she's upset about something. Love can be asking an elderly person if they need help with their shopping cart to take it out to their car, or help to cross the road. Mm-hmm. Love can mean stopping, and instead of just putting $1 or $5 in the hat of a homeless person, actually stopping and making eye contact with them, seeing them. You know, being seen and acknowledged and heard is probably more important than that small amount of money. Love is actually making a difference too. Love is making a difference. I'll tell you a story from South Africa from years ago. I love this story. Um, a beggar came up to my car at the traffic lights, and he was knocking on my window. And so I let the window come down, and he said to me, um, "Hello, boss. Can you spare 2 rand or 5 rand? Let's just call it 50 cents, you know." And I said to him, "Why would you ask me for 1 or 2 rand?" And he went quiet. I said, "How much does it cost you to buy a simple lunch? Let's say some mashed potatoes and gravy and a piece of chicken." So he told me what that would cost him, something like 15 or 20 rand at the time. I said, "Why did you ask me for 10 rand? I said, "Look at my car. Look how expensive my car is. Do you think I can afford 10 rand? He said, "Yeah." I said, "So how many people have you got to ask for 1 or 2 rand in order to get enough money for one meal?" So you're approaching all these people in expensive cars and asking them for a sum of money that is not even considered by them to be a sum of money, or by me. I said, "So ask me for 10 rand." So he asked me for 10 rand, and I smiled at him and I said, "Well, that's my consultancy fee. I'll see you in a few days." So I didn't pay him anything and I drove off, but I knew that I would see him. And a few days later, I went back and he came bounding up to my car and he knocked on and I thought he was going to ask me now for 10 rand again. He didn't. He said, "Thank you very much. I've tried that and it's working. And now I'm getting 2 meals a day." I said, "Good for you." And I went into my wallet and I handed him some money. So what I learned from that is, if you're going to give to a beggar, give them something that they can actually do with, that they can do something with that. Why give somebody a quarter when you can give them $1 or $2 or $5
Right.
to make it work? Love is simple and love is practical. Love is simple and love It's practical. And it's really about understanding, well, what is the story here? What does the person need? And stopping and making that contact. Stopping and making that contact and looking in somebody's eyes is far more real and far more authentic than spouting off all these ideals of what the world should be like. And so that's part of what I teach. And to go through that, we have to go through our own defenses. Because many people, many of us are afraid to stop and make contact. What is the person going to want? What are they going to ask me?
So when we come and sit with you, so if we have the opportunity to come and have a workshop with you, will we have that opportunity to go deeper this way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My workshops are full participation. And that is, so when I'm working with someone, if someone's sitting on the couch or the chair next to me, I invite whoever's observing to go into their own experience of that, not just to be looking at what's happening to him, what's happening to her. There, because every issue that comes up, just about everybody in the room can relate to it.
Yes, yes. And you
Or
also work with
every,
families too, right?
I
So if
do,
somebody
I
wanted to
do.
bring with they could bring their whole family, right? To come and have a
Yeah, one of the
workshop.
things that I do is that I can go into families and spend 3 or 4 days with them. I love doing that work, particularly when there are difficult relationships and we look at the underlying. People are often surprised by my questions because, we've been taught to be externally focused, and part of that external focus is to look at behaviors and personalities. And very often, what I'm coming in with are questions that have got nothing to do with that. I'm all about looking at, well, what actually happened? And what happened is not a description of the person's behavior. And sometimes that happening can be a miscarriage right at the beginning of the marriage. So part of the dream was shattered. And so that is where the trickle started. That's really where it started. And so when I take people on a journey to the first moment, particularly for a couple, when paradise was shattered in some way with an incident, it's about the events and the knock on effects from the events. Um, so, miscarriages, early deaths, illnesses, all of these events can have a huge impact on the family. It's rarely, it's rarely about the personalities. Of course, they do have an influence. But once
Sure.
I take people through the process of looking at what is and acknowledging what is, when a husband can say to his wife or partner, I really realize, sweetheart, that after your 3 miscarriages, there's a part of me that just withdrew from you because I couldn't tolerate seeing you go through that pain again. So as a husband, I started to withdraw. And now that we've revisited all those events again, I'm seeing that. And I'm realizing that that is what led me to have the affair. And I'm deeply sorry that I turned away from you. Mhm. So none of these things let anybody off the hook for their behavior, but it gives it a different context where healing can be found. Mhm. And where the wife can say to the husband, I withdrew from you because I felt that you didn't understand the grief that a woman experiences when she loses a child in that way. For you, it was just a 3-week pregnancy and therefore perhaps unimportant. So I, in my part, in not sharing that with you, also withdrew, and I'm sorry for that. Do you see how that's a whole different way of
Yes,
going back
yes,
to some of the roots of marital problems? And so I look
yes,
at
yes.
events and how did people respond to them? That's just one example. But also it goes back further at looking at, well, how is his or her relationship to their mother and father? Because that often reflects how they relate to their families too. So it's about who belongs and who's been forgotten and who's included and who's been excluded and etc.
Well, it's fascinating, and I would love to continue this discussion about family and ancestry, and how we carry this dynamic forward and generation to generation in our next conversation. Would that be okay? Could we continue this again tomorrow?
Absolutely, absolutely. Cool. Thank you.
That
I'm
would
looking
be
forward to
wonderful.
it.
Oh, Shivasti, thank you so much. This is just a wealth of information, and I want to make sure that I thank you properly. I thank Streaming for this from the Soul, also for opening this conversation up for us, but also to all the people that are coming here right now, and let them know that if they want more information about you, they go to your website, which is Shavasti.
Shavasti.com.
Com. And so the information will be right here on this VOD too, so I don't need to necessarily spell it out. It'll all be right here. But there's also a wealth of videos that you've produced out there, as well as your wonderful books. You have 6 books currently right now. Is that true out there? Or is
Let me
it
see. I've
5 and
got
1
five.
coming
I've
out?
got I've got 5 print books. One is brand new,
Yes.
embracing what's it called? Embracing the
The
Power of
Power of
Truth.
Truth.
Yes.
Yes, I have that book. It's wonderful. It's a
Thank you. So
wonderful
there's
one.
Embracing the Power of Truth, and then I have
Yes.
an audio presentation which is 5 hours long, called Teachings from an Awakened Heart, and we're hoping that very soon, perhaps in July, that will be available on your website as well. Um,
Fantastic.
so
Okay.
we've been talking about that, and just have some negotiations going on at the moment, and so we'll see where we go from there.
Great,
Okay.
and then workshops. Yes, we'll have
Yes.
hopefully we're going to be able to gather workshops. I want to say to people that are watching this that they're interested also in perhaps doing workshops either with you personally or maybe us on the road. That to also go to your website. The information will be there as well. Yes,
Yes. Once we update everything. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
and we'll talk to you
Ciao.
again next time. Ciao.
Bye bye.